All right, well, thank you, Graham. We've heard about now a new announcement with Red Hat around an offering. We've just heard from a customer on their real journey around a multi-cloud, multimodal world where it's about the workload and where the best place to run that workload is, and that's the same thing that we're seeing. And an interesting thing in financial services, which there's a big contingent of here in New York, there's been a lot of kind of do-it-themselves models for all the right reasons. And we're seeing, even in financial services, our customers asking for, it's opening up to get the assistance, not necessarily on the strategy. As Graham clearly pointed out, they have a very clear strategy and they're very much in control, but just getting help on the expertise side of the technology and how to make the best use of it. So now let's keep moving on OpenStack around really where we're headed from an innovation standpoint. So Rackspace and Intel have partnered together in a pretty significant investment to work on the future of OpenStack and where it's headed. And so to help us talk about that from Intel, please join me in welcoming Enterprise Technical Specialist Charles Milo.
So good morning, New York. Hi, my name's Charles Milo, and I'm an Enterprise Technical Specialist for Intel. I've been with Intel for 19 years. And my job is to work with a lot of the large financial accounts right here in New York, New Jersey, and get their applications running on Intel architecture and try to influence that so that it runs best on Intel architecture. But today, I'm actually here to talk to you about the innovation and work that we're doing with Rackspace and driving innovation into OpenStack. And that's, you heard a lot about that this morning, but Intel has actually signed up with a lot of resources behind it and basically working hand in hand with Rackspace to optimize the OpenStack and so that it could be easily deployed and more of those applications can go from the data centers into the cloud. So I'll begin, starting with the data center. The applications, constantly are being more and more demanding, and as you see applications getting deployed, data center growth is happening daily, right? I mean, applications aren't getting smaller, they're getting larger, much more consumption of data. And then, in this case, it's Rackspace and Intel working hand in hand to accelerate the adoption of OpenStack, so that way these applications can wind up in the cloud, and that there aren't, obstacles that stand in the path of that. And so, as I work with that, work with Rackspace and my customers, it's key that some of the partners that are here today also be part of that solution so that they become turnkey solutions. Those solutions are easy deployable, and then customers can actually move more and more applications either private or into the cloud or a combination of hybrid. So, but the thing is, it's really based on what's going on in the cloud and what's the next wave of that cloud. You look at some of the things that are going on today. We all have cell phones, and we all have these handheld devices, tablets, laptops, but it's even more than that. You're going to see things like Internet of Things, sensors, and Intel's developing tons of these types of components. And all this is feeding data, and it feeds it back into the cloud. And right now, we have projections of about 50 billion devices by 2020. That's pretty remarkable. And you can imagine the amount of data, the amount of burden, and then also the need to sort of get really quick to deploy these types of applications to meet the demands of these intense applications. And more importantly, the applications today as they exist. A lot of them are just starting to go into the cloud. A lot of them are being built on-prem in private clouds and then moved into public. But keep in mind, still we're not quite there yet. There's a lot more to be done. And you're going to see projections of about, by 2020, 85% of the applications today that will be in the cloud. So that's a big jump from where we are today. And so what are some of the challenges, and why isn't the industry moving fast enough? I think you heard some of the things from Red Hat before about complexity, and it's not easy, and the whole goal here is Intel and Rackspace actually doing that, making it easier, knocking down the barriers, taking fragmented solutions and making them whole, making them that they're turnkey. Also, the complexity, taking that out, automating that. And as we do, and you heard TD Bank talk about this, you can make these solutions easier deployed, self-deployed. And then also, there are definitely still key hurdles in front of us, and we're working with them, the ecosystem, to knock those down. And whatever those key obstacles are, whether it be security or other elements, we are addressing them day to day. So as I begin, there we go. One of the things that could actually help in this deployment of the solutions is SDI. And I'm sure you guys hear all the buzzwords, SDI, SDN, SDX, software-defined infrastructure. How do we make this easier? How do we make this more turnkey solution? So Intel's been at this for a long time. And I know you guys probably think of us as the microprocessor company, but we have actually the third largest amount of software developers, and we're actually working behind the scenes to optimize these software stacks, making these scripts automated, working hand in hand with Rackspace resources to automate this whole process. Why? So that you can get your applications into the cloud. You can make this easier. And as those demands become more and more of the enterprise application needs, it's easier to deploy. You get them out there to the cloud. And so whether it be CPU, whether it be storage, whether it be networking, those resources have to be there, and they have to be there on demand because we can't predict all these enterprise application needs. And so that's the whole point of the cloud and the ability to move forward. So another thing that I want to really go a little deeper on with Intel and what Rackspace are doing together. So first of all, when you deploy an application, it's pretty easy to put something potentially on a cloud if you're doing it on a couple of servers. But how do you know, or when do you know when it breaks? How do you know it's going to scale? And you can't decide this when you're in production and you're running this. So there's a lot of work that's being done right now with Rackspace, with Intel, testing this behind the scenes, even Red Hat included, that is testing scalability. And this is not on just a couple of servers or hundreds of servers. We've actually tested and scaled in thousands of servers. And so it's important that this work gets done because these are the barriers that stand in the path. And some of these applications may not be that demanding today, but as I showed you those slides before, they will grow. And when we get to 2020, if you have 50 billion devices out there, you can only imagine the amount of data and processing and analytics that are going to occur. And so the good news is, Intel's prepared for this with some of the underlying ingredients, but the software also has to catch up. And then also, to do that, we've worked and built a joint development team to accelerate this. And this is like an open to everybody in this room, as a matter of fact, that can actually use and host the resources on Rackspace with Intel servers behind it, that you can start developing and building software, optimizing it, and providing that to the upstream. And so what we're doing here is we're doing bug fixes, code optimization, so it runs best on Intel architecture, and then your applications obviously meet the demand. And then also, we're also creating the largest developer cloud, and this is also, as I said, open to all of you, where you can actually run your applications, your codes, and test and make things like software-defined infrastructure, scripts, automated so it streamlines your application deployment. These are key critical ingredients here that have to get done in order to see the clouds grow to that 85% number that I showed in 2020. But it's happening today, but we're going to pick up that pace, and we're seeing it. I've been doing this, as I said, 19 years. I've seen customers say they weren't going to the cloud to now shifting all of this on private cloud and bursting out to public cloud, and especially challenges like with security and other things are being addressed, and I'm in these meetings daily. I'm also going to just close out on saying some of the innovation that you heard, prior presentations, as well as what I'm talking about here. It starts with Rackspace, and as they build these, infrastructures out, and they run the OpenStacks and they're optimized and deploying with, software stacks like Red Hat, it's some of the key ingredients underneath this that are important, and this is the work that Intel's doing. So we have the Xeon processor up there, and the Xeon processor is the heart of it all in a lot of ways. And so we're going to make an announcement probably within the next month or two, where we're actually launching our next generation Xeon processor. This is going to be the Broadwell processor, 22 cores. I believe it's something that will meet the demands of these most demanding enterprise applications, obviously be put into the Rackspace architectures that will accommodate those workloads that you'll be placing there. But also, it's not just about the CPU, it's other things. It's like the flash, the storage, right? People look at it and say, 22 cores. That's quite amount of cores, but I'm not compute bound. It's more than that. You're absolutely right. It's the storage and the networking. And these resources are going to be pulled based on the demands of your applications. So we're optimizing the software stacks like OpenStack and working hand in hand with Rackspace and their developers and our developers to meet those needs. So you'll see flash technology, and this flash technology is going to perform 6 times faster than hard drives today. And there's next generations that are coming out even a year later called 3D crosspoint technology that'll have flash memory that'll be the speed of memory. So this is going to be a change in the revolution to some of the things you're seeing in cloud. And so we're hoping to put those ingredients in there, run it best on OpenStack with all the optimizations, and have Rackspace work hand in hand to host those applications for you and manage them and help predict these performances. So hand in hand, in closing, this is a great partnership between Rackspace and Intel, and I hope that you take advantage of that and leverage some of these things that I called out. And at the end of it all, I think you're going to see a great experience as a result of these types of technologies. So I'm going to be here today. It was a quick presentation, but I want to make sure that if there's any questions that you may have, I'll be here, and also John Williams, who's in the back of the room, will also be here representing Intel, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. Okay? Thank you.